I can vividly remember the day they told me we were leaving Mexico. It was a normal summer day during the COVID pandemic, and I was on my way to the doctor when my mom suddenly dropped the words, "Mikel, we have to leave." For the next 40 minutes, guys, I cried like a little boy, desperately trying to hold myself together in a sea of tears. Funny enough, by the time I actually arrived at the doctor's office, he didn't let me in because I had cried so much I had developed a fever. Apparently, there's a medical limit to how hard you can sob before your body actually thinks there's something wrong with you. So, the hours turned into days, the days into weeks, and the weeks into months, and soon, I found myself in front of a boarding gate for a flight to Madrid. During these past months, I had my farewell parties with friends, family, and mentors. I said goodbye to everything I knew, everyone I loved, but most importantly, I said goodbye to who I was. Because the reality was this: the person that hopped on that plane would never be the same, ever again. During this flight to Madrid, my mother wrote to me this small little booklet filled with words of reassurance. In these pages, she told me that everything would be all right, that we would push through this as a family, and that I didn't have to worry about anything. Sounds right, really nice. But truth to be told, I didn't believe a single word that came out of that. Not even one. But I do have to give credit where credit is due, and she did try her very, very best to comfort me. And here in Madrid, things didn't run as smoothly as I expected them to run. My new school in Spain looked really familiar, with green gates and red bricks, just as my school in Mexico did. However, I had a really hard time adapting to my new reality and faced severe bullying by my classmates. In school, they posted videos about me and uploaded them on social media, called me racial slurs, and even excluded me from every aspect of social life, both inside and outside of school. To make matters even worse, my friends in Mexico stopped talking to me, leaving me feeling even more isolated. I started falling into this self-consuming void of constant remembrance of my past. I spent my nights looking at the stars, reminiscent about what my life in Mexico had been. During this period of profound loneliness, I managed to convince myself that my life in Mexico had been absolutely perfect. One night, as I was probably staring into the abyss, my dad came up to me and said, "Son, in times of grief and remembrance, your subconscious mind tends to overlook the negatives and feed you positive images of your past." And suddenly, guys, in that precise moment, everything clicked. Because it turns out that my dad wasn't just giving me fatherly wisdom. He was actually explaining neuroscience without even knowing it. Turns out that when we experience something traumatic, our brains don't store memories the same way we do during everyday life. The amygdala, our brain's personal fire alarm, goes off, sending a flood of stress hormones into our system. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, our brain's memory archive, starts malfunctioning. To make your lives a little bit easier, think of it this way. Imagine a librarian trying to carefully organize books while the entire library is on fire. Instead of carefully filing and storing information, just throw stuff around into random corners. The result? Well, according to famous neuroscientist Dr. Robert Sapolsky, high levels of stress hormones can lead to our memories becoming fuzzy, distorted, or completely rewritten. That is why, when I thought about Mexico, all I could see were beautiful golden sunsets, laughter with friends, and endless happiness. My brain had edited out the heartbreaks, the bad days, and the disappointments. It's a self-protection mechanism because, let's be really honest with ourselves. If our brains would let us remember everything with full clarity, we'd simply never recover from anything painful. And here's where it gets even trickier. Every time we recall a memory, we're actually modifying it. Sounds crazy, right? But it's actually how it works. Think of it as opening your laptop, opening a document, accidentally deleting a sentence, and hitting save instead of undo. Scientists call this process memory reconsolidation, and according to a study published in Nature, around 70% of a person's recollection of an event can change just within a few days of said event happening. This is why two people can remember the exact same event completely differently, and why, over time, we managed to convince ourselves that the good old days were much better than what they actually were. In short, our memories aren't static. They constantly change. They are reshaped by our emotions and experiences, reflecting more about our present mindset than about the actual past. Now, my distorted memory wasn't just affecting my perception of the past. It was actively influencing my present through something called the reticular activating system, or otherwise simply known as RAS. Think of the RAS as your brain's personal algorithm. It's the filter that decides what information is relevant based on what you already believe or focus on. Every second, our brains are bombarded with around 11 million bits of information. Yeah, you heard that right. 11 million. Yet, somehow, our RAS manages to filter this down to roughly between 40 to 50 bits of information. To put this into perspective, that means that we consciously process only around 0.000005% of the information we receive. A study done by Harvard University revealed that our attention is so selective that it can lead to significant biases in our perception of reality. To make this a little bit more relatable for people my age, that's like scrolling through thousands and thousands and thousands of TikToks and just stopping at the ones you already expect to like. For instance, have you ever noticed how, after deciding to buy a particular car, you just start seeing it everywhere? Well, according to Dr. Marcus Reichel, our brain uses around 10% of our body's total energy in order to filter and process information through systems like the RAS. That is why your RAS kicks into high gear and starts seeing the same car everywhere. Now, because my mind was fixated on the idea that Mexico was perfect and Spain was just terrible, my RAS kicked into high gear. It selectively highlighted every negative aspect about Madrid, further reinforcing my belief that everything here was just awful. I woke up late and missed the bus, but clearly, guys, Spain was out here to get me. Had a bad meal, further proof that Spain couldn't even compare to Mexico. Even my occasional bad hair days seemed suspiciously tied to the country's shortcomings. And it turns out that a negatively tuned RAS traps us in a loop where negative expectations produce negative outcomes. A study done by famous psychologist Barbara Fredrickson revealed that focusing on negative emotions can narrow down our vision and limit our possibilities. Conversely, experiencing positive emotions can increase our capability to notice and seize opportunities by more than 300%. Breaking this self-destructive cycle meant actively shifting my focus and consciously creating new, positive memories here in Spain. It required intentional effort, like celebrating small victories, and allowing me to engage in positive experiences that would help me reprogram my brain's algorithm. This insight changed everything for me, and it made me question how often do we let distorted memories dictate our present? How often do we let past pain create habits that limit our happiness today? And the answer is more often than we realize. So I'll leave you with this. What stories are you telling yourself? Are they helping you or are they trapping you? Because remember this, your memories might have shaped you, but they do not by any means define who you are. Every day on this earth is a blank piece of paper. So pick up the pen and start writing a story that you're proud of. a story that transforms your past into strength and your future into something worth remembering. Thank you.